Why in the world, at this particular time, in dead set, in one of the worst droughts we've ever had, would the federal government do this to citrus growers?
Well, there's certainly, we feel there's a lot of waste occurring in the department, and instead of, like any good business, looking inward and trying to cut costs and be more efficient, they're simply just levying growers harder to cover their own inefficiencies.
But 277% increase? They're kidding, aren't they?
That's right. Well, certainly, it's been the rhetoric of this government to jobs and growth and grow exports. And as an industry, we're one of the leaders in that, in citrus, table grapes and almonds being our three biggest horticultural exports. Now, we're out there doing the trade and then we get slugged with this. It's just ridiculous.
Whereabouts do we send those three products abroad?
Well, for citrus, I can mainly speak. Certainly, about 44% of our exports go to China at the moment, and that's been a great growth market for us. We also supply Japan and the USA, and in fact, all through Southeast Asia and pretty much all over the world.
I would have thought, given our strict conditions and the way we farm and the technology we use, we would have a great reputation in terms of quality. Is that right?
Well, it's funny, Chris, you've hit the nail on the head. The unfortunate thing is that it's, yes, with all that, we are clean and green and we have some very strict regulations and food safety and chemical use. Believe it or not, it's harder to get and more expensive to get a container of oranges out of this country than it is to get one in. How ridiculous is that?
So it's harder to get it out than it is to get it in. Why would they be so diligent about what goes out as opposed to what comes in?
I think it's bureaucracy and rule-making and, we tend to get caught up. I mean, you see this quite a lot in the public service. We get caught up in making rules for rules' sake. Certainly, we feel there's been some good initiatives in the past that have put the trust back on industry to do the right thing, but we don't feel there's been anywhere near enough. And with the high cost of labour and certification in this country, that's adding to the cost to export.
What does a 277% increase in export fees, what does that translate to in terms of cash for your average citrus grower, for instance?
Well, we've got some growers. It really all depends whether they're a grower or a packer and an exporter. The vast majority of citrus growers are just that, growers, but there is a bit of vertical integration in the industry. Now, as you know, any costs that are incurred in the supply chain always get passed back down to the grower, and our growers are price takers in that respect. So, unfortunately, we have some growers that I've been talking to. This is going to cost them $30,000 just to be registered for export before they even ship a single orange. 30 grand just to step up at the plate and have a go at exporting.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it true that you've also had a big kick in the guts recently in terms of the spot price rises for water as well? Yeah,
the growers are certainly doing it tough out there with any temp water that they've needed to get through. That's gone from 800 a megalitre, which is crazy high anyway, to 950 to, I'm hearing, over $1,000 a megalitre. And so just to put that in perspective, quite often that can be greater than 50% of what a current grower's cost of production is without a water cost. So you add 50% to the cost of doing business for nearly any business model, and it's just not sustainable.
I don't get this, Ben. Here we've got Cabinet meeting this week to try and work out what they can do additionally for farmers who are suffering from the drought. Citrus farmers are obviously going through similar problems in terms of the price of water, etc., and, the drier land mass that they have to work in, and yet they whack a 277% increase on you for export licence fees. Like, I would have thought one way to help you would be not do this.
Exactly. I think, in our experience, growers are a proud bunch and they work hard. They don't want a handout. In tough times, the best thing you can do for farmers is just a bit of rate relief. And so I completely agree with you. I think the sensible thing is to pause right now. Let's just see how the big dry is playing out for a lot of these people. Some of these growers, it's been costing them 5 to 10 grand, which they've been struggling with, and now you're going to go and hit them with 30. I mean, that's food off the table for these people.
You've been out and about today talking to growers in your area of South Australia. Tell us a little bit about the feedback you're getting from them when they hear about the increase in export licence fees.
Yeah, it's quite hard for them to get their heads around, and you know, growers being growers, they say, well, we'll just soldier on and we'll find the money, we'll make it work. Realistically, we're an export-driven industry, and the export pricing is sustainable. That provides sustainability to the whole equation. The juice mix is in citrus production in Australia is about 1/3 export, 1/3 domestic, and 1/3 juice, and so it's a split three ways. Now, if you start swinging that balance any one way because it's too expensive to export, then those other two markets are going to become depressed. So growers are just going to have to soldier on. That's what they're saying. They'll certainly be raising this with their local members. They'll be submitting their opinions there's a call for consultation at the moment. So we're asking growers feedback. Tell the government how bad this is. Contact your local member. Be heard.
See, it's just, I hate to use this trite term, but it's un-Australian. We're driving cattle farmers off the land because we can't get feed to them. We're driving wheat farmers off the land because they can't get a crop in and haven't for the last 2 seasons. We're driving dairy farmers off the land because we can't work out pricing in terms of the supermarket and the wholesalers. And now we're going to drive you blokes off the land because you're being charged to actually export a really successful and quality product abroad. You're being very successful and you're being paid for it. What's the problem here? Is it because the bureaucracy has too many fat layers and fat regulations?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said before, a lot of it is rules for rules' sake. Some very small caveats that the department's given us, like with the approved officer program, have shown that industry can be trusted. Industry is successful at self-regulation. And so it's just a case of what we've done is we've removed a lot of the regional inspectors from being needed by certifying ourselves. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the department's just re-employed all those people as auditors. So now they're coming onto the farms auditing every year. And I mean, these are people that, you know, your invoice is costing you $200 plus an hour. Now, you're going through, there's a lot of duplications where they're auditing against food safety systems when they're not recognising that you might already have a food safety system in place. Why can't that be recognised? Why trawl through all those documents and audit against that?
OK, who is the brain-dead minister who would have signed off on this then?
Well, it did rest previously with Minister Littleproud. I mean, the department's been kicking this can down the road for nearly a decade now. I've got staff at CA who this has been a big part of their career, trying to fend off this. Minister Mackenzie's obviously signed off on this without really looking into too much detail, and I really implore her to take another look. Certainly, we've met with her advisors several times and raised this as a significant issue, and we've been told, thanks for bringing it to our attention. The department's internally having a review. I mean, we all know what those internal reviews look like. They're already written most of the time, and the department is not going to embark on a review that will not look favourably upon itself.
Exactly. An independent review is the only way to go when it comes to a government bureaucracy. That's the first thing that needs to happen. And I would have thought, at the very least, they can do you a favour in the middle of one of our worst droughts by saying, OK, we're going to lower the increase in licence fees and we're actually going to put a moratorium on it until this drought is over. That'd be a good start. Yeah,
that's right. Well, effectively, the department's really going for the purse here. They've been under recovering in the Hawke Grains program for circa $1 million a year. Now, they've racked up a bit of a debt of, I think, 6 or 7 million, and they're going to try and recover that over about 2 years. So they're really going for the throat when these growers are really, really struggling. They need all the help they can get. Yeah. And I agree. I think lock it in or even lower it. We should be encouraging growers to export their fruit, bring cash back into the country, really kickstart the economy.
Absolutely. This is not your fault. If they're in debt, it's a bureaucratic problem that they should fix themselves. Ben, let's follow this and keep supporting you. I'll continue to do what I can. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.